They called it Sector Black. Officially, it was designated as uninhabitable, not due to radiation, gravity wells, or cosmic instability, but because nothing returned from it. Patrol ships, survey drones, even bounty fleets sent to scavenge anomalies all vanished. The Council of Nine labeled it a strategic dead zone and quietly erected a containment perimeter. No explanation, no recovery missions, just a silence. Then, an old data packet arrived at the edge of the Regulus expansion line. It was encrypted using a format that hadn't been seen in over 1,000 years. Primitive, inefficient, human. The Council dismissed it as noise. One archivist, a Silic named Carex, decrypted it out of curiosity. What he uncovered was not a message but a declaration, an account from a ship's log detailing the fall of the Velx Imperium, written in clinical precision by an unnamed Terran. The Velx control 27 systems. They specialize in population suppression, economic parasitism, and extraction of neural substrates for trade with the Triumvirate. They had resisted 3 galactic coalitions and executed 7,000 known dissidents in a single solar cycle. They were feared, and rightly so, until one solar week, when an entire Velx navy ceased responding. At first, it was presumed to be a quantum disruption. Then, ground transmissions from colonies ceased. A reconnaissance drone was sent. It found ruins, no energy signatures, no life signs, only destruction rendered with surgical exactness. Velx genetic markers were scattered across interior walls, like sprayed ink. The structures were left intact. Only the species was removed. Carex forwarded the logs to a classified intelligence branch. The file was buried, and Carex was reassigned to atmospheric chemistry research. He made no complaint. He had read the final line in the log. "We don't occupy. We erase." The wider galaxies still believed humanity had perished in their death world long ago. Earth, a Category 9 hostile biosphere, was deemed unviable after a failed terraforming initiative in the 41st cycle. That assessment hadn't been updated. No probes returned. No satellite captured active emissions. No trade was recorded. The humans were presumed extinct. But extinction doesn't generate war logs. Extinction doesn't melt an empire without deploying a fleet. A month after the Velx disappearance, pirates operating in the Carven Helix encountered a vessel that didn't exist on any registry. Matte black, asymmetrical hull, no emissions, no heat, no response to hails. The pirates fired. Their weapons didn't detonate. Their systems failed mid-attack. The last transmitted image showed their own reactor core activating without command. Silence followed. The pirate guilds began retreating from their own corridors. The black ship returned every time anyone tried to reclaim what was lost. No communication, no threats, just arrival, termination, and exit. Rumors spread. At first, they were dismissed as ghost stories, old myths about deathworlders who could smell fear, whose bones were denser than armor plating, who never negotiated, never surrendered. But then came the encounters from a frail directorate, a warlike coalition infamous for live vivisections of insurgents. Their frontier world, Bereth-Null, fell within an hour. Satellites were hijacked, gravity stabilizers inverted. The planet's water was boiled into vapor before it reached the troposphere. Millions dead. No conventional weapons used. No invaders seen. The Directorate sent a fleet. It never reached the system. Each ship turned back on itself, their own AI cores broadcasting distress signals encoded in ancient human languages. Council probes later recovered pieces of those ships. No energy residue. No evidence of attack. Only one data artifact survived. A single, perfect sentence etched into a carbon sheath. It read, "Do not build empires on broken backs." The Council convened an emergency session. Multiple species representatives proposed an investigation. Others wanted immediate war. A few suggested outreach. None realized they were already being monitored. A Juran diplomat, Praxtel Nur, attempted contact by sending a convoy of emissaries toward Earth. They never reached it, not because they were attacked, but because the humans turned their ships around by taking control of their own navigation systems. Each vessel was reprogrammed mid-flight, rerouted back to their origin point with internal systems locked. The message appeared on their internal display. Do not come here. We are not a destination. Word spread that humans did not broadcast signals because they didn't want to be heard. They didn't build empires because they found them offensive. Empires, after all, were parasites, and humans were immune. The Syndicate of Light, a vast empire built on trade dominance and information control, tried to disprove the human threat. They sent a psychological warfare vessel equipped with empathy dampeners, psychic shields, and reality dissonance generators. It vanished. When its sister ship attempted retrieval, it found the original vessel drifting intact, with the crew alive, silent, and smiling. Each crew member had etched strange symbols into their own flesh. They refused to speak. Their minds were unreachable, locked in thought loops that radiated calm and contentment. Medical examination revealed no injuries, no tampering, only a neural reconfiguration. They were happy. They had seen something and chose not to return. The Syndicate shut down its side of vision within days. The galaxy began mapping human actions in retroactive fear. Disappearances were reclassified as potential Terran operations. Resistance movement began to reference Earth not as a hope, but as a looming test. If the humans help us, they whispered, it means we were worth saving. The archives of Bowler Prime, once considered the most secure knowledge vault in the galaxy, reported a breach. No structural entry. No hacking trails. Just the removal of one file. Classified record. Earth Cataclysm event. Year 26 to 871. In its place, a new line was added. Redacted by human authority. Continue your ignorance. The head archivist resigned that day. Colonies bordering Sector Black began to evacuate. Entire systems self-scuttled rather than risk attention. The phrase silence is survival became a political doctrine. Minor species formed coalitions based on anonymity. Empires began downsizing to avoid classification as targets. Leaders retired or disappeared, choosing exile over profile. The planet Koresh was silent for decades, a hidden archive world buried beneath ice and acid storms. It served as a galactic consensus's memory core, where entire civilizations' histories were stored in quantum-stabilized lattices. Redundant, isolated, unconnected to any network, it was considered tamper-proof. Then, without warning, the central databank turned itself off. No signal, no breach detected, just silence. When engineers landed to investigate, they found only one record untouched. Every other file was erased. The remaining entry read, "You never knew us. That was your first mistake." The consensus declared emergency protocol. Layers of defensive AI were awakened. Ships rerouted. Border worlds armed with fail-safe systems. No one knew what humans would do next, and that uncertainty paralyzed even the warborn. The Varnak Scourge, famed for exterminating 10,000 species before being leashed by genetic compliance chips, suddenly abandoned their breeding grounds and detonated their own hive worlds. When questioned, their queen simply said, "We know the scent of final predators." Theories abounded. Some said the humans had evolved beyond biology, now data phantoms who moved through systems like ghosts. Others insisted they were still flesh and blood, but had mastered the art of never being seen until it was too late. A few argued they weren't a species anymore, but a function, a universal immune response that activated once galactic corruption reached a threshold. No matter the theory, the outcome remained constant. If humans were coming, you didn't survive. You ceased to matter. The Drovan Imperium believed they could tempt the unknown. They dispatched a tribute fleet of gold, biological art, clone slaves, and quantum processors toward Earth. The fleet never arrived. Weeks later, the Drovan homeworld received a broadcast. Each member of the tribute crew, alive, unharmed, now free citizens on independent worlds. No threats were issued. Only one sentence closed the message. "We are not your myth. We are your correction." The Drovan Council disbanded itself within hours. Uncertainty became the most potent weapon in the human arsenal. No open wars, no fleets in formation, no declaration of conflict, just cause, effect, and the unmistakable fingerprint of a species that viewed dominance as a sickness to be cauterized. The galactic consensus attempted outreach through indirect means. They created a species specifically for the purpose, empathic, inoffensive, biologically incapable of violence. The Kiriti were seeded with stories of human mercy, trained to appeal to sentiment, and sent as diplomats bearing only gifts. They made it through the Terran perimeter. They even landed. They even returned. But they came back different. They refused to speak of what they saw. Their recorded memories were blank. Their translators no longer recognized the Terran language. They wept without cause. They sang in frequencies never before recorded. The consensus declared the program a success. The Kiriti never said otherwise. But they all later left their homeworld and scattered across the stars, founding temples to the ones who wait. None of them bore children again. In the depths of the Olaris Rift, a think tank of synthetics known as the Axis construct calculated probability trees based on humanity's pattern. After analyzing over 8 trillion scenarios, the final output remained constant. 0 probability of long-term resistance. Not because humans had more weapons, but because they were the only civilization in recorded history to never collapse from within. Every species eventually fractured. Ideology, resource scarcity, internal strife. Humans had wars, yes, but those wars didn't break them. They refined them. The construct tried to solve for that variable and failed. What terrified the Axis most wasn't the presence of humans. It was their patience. They didn't strike when insulted. They didn't invade at provocation. They watched. They recorded. They let others grow confident, loud, and cruel. Only then did they move. And when they did, it was not for conquest. It was to remove a mistake. The Balon Triad, a genetically unified superstate, declared humanity a rogue state and began mass-producing hunter-killer fleets. The moment those fleets went live, every Balon planet lost control of its gravity regulators. Oceans lifted into the sky. Forests vaporized. Infrastructure melted. The fleets were still intact, but their homeworlds were erased. Messages from Balon Command began leaking into public channels. Distorted voices, twisted screams, looping pleas for help. Each contained one repeated phrase: "We should not have built thrones." Their fleet cores detonated themselves before reaching any border. Meanwhile, smaller species began shifting policy. Quiet revolutions swept through governments. Forced labor was abolished, bioharvesting banned, conscription erased. No wars. No announcements. Just strategic apologies and disarmament. These changes weren't made from morality. They were made from fear. No one wanted to be noticed. No one wanted to be judged. And it became clear humanity wasn't attacking the galaxy. They were pruning it, not indiscriminately, not rapidly, not even personally. But when a species crossed a threshold into exploitation, when empire became more than survival, humans responded, and their responses were impossible to prevent, resist, or anticipate. A whistleblower within the Zarnai Syndicate exposed an attempted human counteroffensive plan. The operation involved hidden assassins, financial disruptions, planetary blackouts. It failed before it began. Every agent involved was found already terminated, not by violence, but by consent. They had voluntarily ended their own lives. Each left behind a letter. "They showed me the mirror." That phrase spread faster than any virus. "They showed me the mirror." It became a whisper, then a fear, then a mantra. Entire intelligence networks folded, unwilling to probe deeper. Political factions collapsed without a shot fired. Propaganda dissolved. Humanity didn't need to fight empires. They simply convinced them to implode. Every time one of these collapses happened, the Council tracked the pattern. No two were the same. There were no signature tactics. Sometimes data vanished. Sometimes biology was disrupted. Sometimes memories were rewritten. Sometimes nothing could be explained at all, just results with no trail. The notion that humans hunted empires became literal, not metaphor, not hyperbole. They had refined extermination into an art, not because they enjoyed it, but because they refused to let tyranny metastasize unchecked.